Hey everyone, Rascal here.
And Mama, welcome to our podcast.
Today we're looking at another animated movie from DreamWorks, Mr. Peabody and Sherman.
This theatrical reboot of the 1950s cartoon showcases a fun-time travel adventure when Sherman sends a classmate to ancient Egypt and only Mr. Peabody helps get her back.
Mm-hmm. And we actually saw a little bit of, I know you and I saw Rocky and Bullwinkle. I didn't know that Mr. Peabody and Sherman was only a extra show within a show. Like they was focused on different characters in there, and then they would have their own segment. Mm-hmm. But I guess they grew just as popular as Rocky and Bullwinkle.
Well, Rocky and Bullwinkle ran, like you said, originally in the 50s, and it reran for about 30 years on television, before they decided to have Boomerang and take all the older cartoons off. Mm-hmm. And then, of course, they had a movie, Natasha and Boris, that came from the same show. Mm-hmm. And as you said, Mr. Peabody and Sherman was a section. It also had my favorite, the Fractured Fairy Tales. Mm-hmm. And it was charming seeing it because you got a little history. And I think back when it came out originally, it was probably really a big deal that they had this show that would teach about history to kids, and it was actual history, the real thing with a little spin on it. This movie I thought was fantastic. I thought Sherman was adorable, and I like how Mr. Peabody had his own personality and Sherman. And I think DreamWorks did a great job making an adaptation for a movie.
I agree.
And stretching it out to a full, hour and a half?
Yeah, because, usually the movies are about that length, and you're kind of thinking with some of the stuff they make to movies, like, how are you going to make this long without feeling like you're dragging it on, and it's just like it should have stopped long before now. And the animation on top of it was really, really great. It was really fun and exciting, adventurous. It really captured the spirit of the show and keeping it fun, but still, it's updated.
Right. Now, as I said, the show ran for about 30 years, including reruns. So in the 80s, this show was still on TV. Mm-hmm. And I don't know, you probably know better than I do, if any of the original voice actors are still alive.
Yeah, I'm actually not sure about that. Nobody really talks about them. You don't hear about them. You don't know if they were famous voice actors at the time, and they went on to do other projects.
I know one, the squirrel. Not for Mr. Peabody and Sherman,
Rocky and Bullwinkle?
I do know June Foray was
Oh, squirrel. Yeah, that's true. And, she passed on.
Right. So.
But for the rest, not sure. It's not like the ones where a lot of them are still doing voice acting today. Right. I don't know if they're still doing voice acting, or they've passed on, or they've just retired from doing the work.
So that being said, I think they did a great job casting the voice actors for this, because he sounded just like Mr. Peabody. Mm-hmm. And that was
it was
Ty Burrell.
Yeah,
Ty Burrell. And Sherman, I'm sorry, he was just adorable. He was such an adorable sounding kid, and the way they drew him. And I like the animation style that they used also. It wasn't just 2D.
Right.
So it made it a lot more fun.
And plus, an actual kid was doing Sherman's voice.
Yes.
It wasn't an adult pretending to be a kid, which is fine. But now, thanks to Lotto, you're starting to see a lot of kids doing kids' voices, and
awesome.
It's hilarious. It's like, wait a minute, that's an actual boy.
It reminds me of Hey Arnold. Yes.
Right.
So in this story, as you said, they had an adventure. People were having problems with Mr. Peabody raising a boy. Right. And it was a cute story of how he became his son, which was really adorable. And he began to be bullied in school when the kids found out his dad was a canine. Mm-hmm. And one little girl in particular was...
I think her name Penny.
Yeah, she was pretty bad about it. I mean, hardcore.
Yeah, it's like you don't really like this character when she's first on there. But, as the movie goes on, she starts to, learn that wasn't right to do to him.
Now, usually... I've heard my mom used to say a long time ago that if you just let kids work it out, usually when they're small like that, they'll work it out. Mm-hmm. But of course, you had a teacher who just couldn't let it go. What was her name?
Shoot. Yeah, she was this big lady.
Waback.
Yeah,
that's the Wayback Machine.
No, that's the Wayback. It was Edwina. They called her Grunion.
Grunion, yeah.
Grunion, that actually fits.
Grunion was like, whoa, and she wasn't going to let it go, and she was determined to have him taken away from Mr. Peabody, and she said all these things that were just pretty hardcore, nasty.
Right.
And so...
And the movie did a good job handling it was done really great. It wasn't in your face. It wasn't trying to make some type of big political message or anything like that. It was just a simple story with that little bit of modern day conflict, but it didn't like destroy any of the fun and try to get too real. It was, you could still enjoy the story for what it was, plus learn about that as well.
Right. So Mr. Peabody, in an attempt to try to get the dogs off, so to speak, he invited Penny's parents to come over, and they loved him after he did chiropractic work on the dad's back. He loved Mr. Peabody then. They were dancing and having cocktails and playing instruments and everything. And Penny and Sherman, of course, went and got into trouble and ended up going in the Wayback Machine.
Right.
He heard him say in his mind, don't ever use it. Never use the Wayback Machine alone. Never go back. And the pretty girl wanted to know. So he took her in the machine.
Yeah. And they went through all these different time periods. They went to ancient Egypt. They went to Rome. They went to Italy. They went to
Rome is in Italy.
Oh. I do that. I think I was thinking, for some reason I was thinking of when they're doing the Trojan War. That was a different thing. I was thinking Greece. Yeah, I was thinking the wrong thing. Sorry about that. And they went through all these different time periods. They would keep making unscheduled pit stops because stuff would happen with the Wayback Machine. It all accumulated into this big thing where all these things from the past were coming in, and it was messing with the timelines, and it became this big old adventure with all these different historical figures. Like they had Benjamin Franklin, George Washington, Abe Lincoln, Albert Einstein. All these people just started showing up in present day.
Baby Moses.
I wasn't expecting
Jackie
that.
Robinson, Vincent Van Gogh. It was great. You said Leonardo da Vinci, right?
Yeah, I think so. And the Mona Lisa.
That was one of the funniest parts of the movie. And then one really hilarious part is Penny. The first place they stopped was ancient Egypt, and of course she lands in the time of King Tut, really, really small Tut.
Right.
And she decides she's going to marry him because he said, you know what'll happen when you marry? She says, when he dies, she says, yeah, I'll get everything. And then he starts telling her himself, oh, they'll disembowel you, they'll put your organs in cut out big jars, and you'll be in the afterlife. She was ready to go.
Yeah,
she's like, get me out of here.
She said, oh, okay, now I see. Well, thank you. Okay, let's go.
And they were like, no, you're going to marry this man.
He's a please get him off of us. Yeah.
That was hilarious. And that's how all of the other stuff ensued from trying to run away from that time period.
Right. And also, I love that they kept that Mr. Peabody was almost invincible. He had a little bit of weakness, like he didn't know how comedy worked sometimes. He would be wrong about maybe one or two things, but usually Mr. Peabody was never wrong. He would know everything. He helped invented things. He knew everything.
He was friends with everybody in the world.
Right.
For centuries.
Right. And even from the time he was raising Sherman, he took him all the way back to, like I said, with baby Moses in the river. Like, man, like, you know everybody. And it was just really awesome. He would have all these skills. He could play everything, cook everything, do everything. He was the most interesting dog in the world.
He was a Renaissance dog.
Yeah. And that was always the best. You would think, oh no, something's gonna happen to him. And he always, oh no. And they said, oh, he died. I said, died? I have a hard time believing that. Yeah. It's like it's Mr. Peabody. He can't. Although now you got to bring up the spin-off. Remember they did a spin-off a few years later.
After talking about this wonderful version.
Right.
So the movie ensues, and they have to find a way once all of the past tries to come to the present. Of course, it destroys the timeline and just, creates a ripple in the fabric of time, and things start happening, and Earth starts to be destroyed.
Right.
And so they have to find a way to fix it. And of course, Sherman figured out a way to fix it, correct?
Right.
So that was
the funniest.
Reared by Mr. Peabody.
Plus, we found out originally Mr. Peabody was going to be voiced by Robert Downey Jr. And then he was replaced by Ty Burrell.
Right.
But he actually sounds closer to the original Mr. Peabody. He does. I think closer than Robert Downey.
But Robert Downey is an excellent actor.
Yes.
And I think he would have been fabulous. But Ty Burrell did an awesome and amazing job.
Right. So. And lastly, as for the reception and box office, it did very well at the box office. And it made how much?
It made $11,832,558 in its fourth weekend, but it made $8 million its opening weekend, which was pretty good during the time this came out.
Right.
Because this was what, 6 years ago?
Yeah, it was in 2014. So yeah,
5 years ago. Yeah. So I was really surprised that DreamWorks did this, but it was a great calculated risk that paid off.
Right.
If it didn't pay off for them as well in the theaters, as you saw during the 3 weeks that it was at the top, even after it had not only the DVD sales, but also it appeared on Netflix and Amazon, where you could pay to see it as well.
Right.
But back to the movie so we can finish.
Right.
So Sherman figured out how to use the Wayback Machine to fix the anomaly, and then everything turned out well because Grunion got to be taken back by a Roman soldier.
Yeah,
who fell in love with her as soon as he saw her.
That was one of the best parts, and the movie ends with you see what happens with that.
Right.
I love that.
He picked her up and took her away, and she was screaming, and he just took her. And everything worked out well because she was taken back like the teacher on Star vs. the Forces of Evil.
Right. Oh, with Miss Skolnick.
Maybe that's where they were inspired by Mr. Peabody Sherman.
That would be hilarious.
Miss Skolnick had her a guy from the past.
Right.
Or another
dimension.
Yeah,
stuff.
So it was funny. So this movie overall was great. And as you said, it had really good reception. And I was hoping they would have a second, but they didn't.
Yeah.
Instead of making the second movie, we will go now to the bad decision DreamWorks made in making an actual series.
Right. Now, as we know, it did well at box office. Critical reception, it was kind of half and half. A lot of people really enjoyed it, and a lot of people thought it was just sort of like an attempt to, for a new generation to get involved in a show that they don't think they would be interested in.
And I was going to say, they probably were thinking, oh, no one's going to like this because of when it came out. But they made it new, refreshing, and relevant, and the animation was updated. I think it worked.
Right.
Now, our Nana, of course, saw it originally in the 50s, and we were really surprised when she said she liked it.
Right.
So, there you go.
Right. And for the Mr. Peabody and Sherman show, they kind of take off a little bit after the movie, in which they now have their own Tonight talk show, like with Jimmy Fallon.
Which was a great idea.
Yes.
But the concept veered left and just went off the cliff.
Right. And you know, in the original, whenever it was time to teach Sherman a lesson, they would go back in time, specific point in history. While in here they did that, but it was also part of a talk show. And they would have cameras around them, and they would have their own studio, and they would show the audience what happened during points in history. The problem is that everyone they met in history was an absolute idiot.
And the history never was the way it actually worked out.
Right.
Which kind of totally destroyed the premise of the original sketch that aired on the Rocky and Bullwinkle show.
Exactly. And they had some great voice talent here, both for voice actors and movie stars in here. But the problem was that the story was no longer interesting as the movie made it. Like I said, everyone was lower in IQ. They resort to fart humor, potty humor. Mr. Peabody was wrong a lot of the time. He got hurt in trouble. It's like you took away the charm that the movie had.
And that would have been fine if that's how it originally was. And if they had found a way to do it without making people total morons that were characters in the show, it would have been okay. But for some reason, they decided, like you said, IQs just went out the window. And Mr. Peabody as a moron just doesn't work because, like you said, that's the charm. You've got this brilliant dog who loves his son. And he would do anything in the world for him. And all of that made you just love the movie and adore the characters was gone.
Right. And the thing is, it had potential because there were some actually really great ideas. Like they show the man who created the very first comic. They show the man who created potato chips. Yes. And they had some really great ideas. Like, okay, we've never seen that.
And they had my Josh Keaton.
Of course.
My Shiro.
He was Edgar.
Several characters.
Yeah, he was Edgar Allan Poe, Wilbur Wright, Julie Susan. We gotta check out some of those episodes. And Tom Kenny.
And the regular character, Mr. Yakamura.
And Tom Kenny is Blackbeard. Definitely gotta see that.
And they had Phil Lamar. They had some really hard, heavy hitters for voice acting.
Yes.
And they had some live action actors that also did some great parts.
And musical guest stars, actual bands pertaining to be other bands. And even a point where Mr. Peabody wanted to go back together with his 80s band and he became a tyrant for music, and it was really weird.
Now, that being said, clearly there are people that do like this show because it's been running how many seasons now?
It said 4 seasons.
4 seasons.
And it ended a little sooner than expected. They ordered 78 and they reduced it to, looks like, 52, so I guess they were done after a while.
So, there are people that really like this show, and if any of you are listening, let us know what makes it appeal to you in the comments below. Let us know what we possibly are missing. Let us know, because we only watched actually about 3 episodes. So, let us know, did it get better? Did it start going back more into the major premise of the original show and the movie? Let us know, and we'd be willing to give it another chance and see what we missed that possibly transpired and made it better.
And I love the animation they had for it. Absolutely love it. I'm missing cartoons with that style. So another plus.
And if you've seen this movie, let us know what you think in the comments below. What's your favorite character they met in history? And are you wishing for and hoping that there's still a Mr. Peabody and Sherman too?
Yes. So thank you so much for watching. I'm Oscar Entertainment.
I'm Mom Entertainment.
Have a fantastic day.
Peace.
Flashing lights, trying to walk around, man, who the hell are you? What you wanna do? Well, man, it's on you. Man, it's on you. Met her in my dreams, she was my queen. A castle in the mountaintops, rivers and streams. Plucking sunlight from the sky in my pocket. Give it to you later on in the form of a locket.